Bill O'Reilly, welcome.
Thank you, Howard.
Let's start with Killing Kennedy. Rob Lowe just started the National Geographic movie based on your book. We seem to be awash in specials and documentaries and articles about the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination. Why the enduring fascination, not just with his death, but with his life?
Glamour. Most glamorous president the country's ever seen by far. And he's frozen in time because he was assassinated at such a young age. So that people who were alive then, certainly with all the unanswered questions, the conspiratorialists and all of that, there's a mystery involved in his death. And then the younger people coming up, they see this very handsome president, his beautiful wife, and the two little kids. And so inherently there's an interest in it. It's like Princess Diana. It's like anybody who's that glamorous, Marilyn Monroe, that never dies out.
And who never got old, of course. Your new book, Killing Jesus, also written with Martin Dugard, a big bestseller like your other ones. What do you bring as an author to these subjects that have been so extensively covered in many other books?
But they haven't been covered like we cover them. When I first pitched Killing Lincoln to a publisher who turned it down, they said, "Oh, there's so many Lincoln books." I said, "But not by me," which sounds cocky, but it isn't. It's formulaic.
You get to promote it every night.
If you don't have a good product, you could promote it every night and nobody's going to buy it. The product is good because it's, number one, fun to read, and number two, will teach you something. That's the simple formula. Fun to read, teach you something. You meld it.
You were asked about the colorful narrative in one interview in Killing Jesus, and you said, of course it's sensationalist. What did you mean by that?
Well, we are basically setting up the drama of why Jesus was executed. I mean, what brought him to that point? And by its very nature, when you have, the powerful Romans and the temple authorities trying to get this guy, and it's this cat and mouse game, that's going to be sensational. And it was. And the execution was as ghastly as you could possibly imagine. And our research uncovered a lot of things about how it was done, why it was done, who did it really, and we lay it all out, just like we did with Kennedy and Lincoln.
You got to promote Killing Jesus on 60 Minutes, on Katie Couric. You've been on The View and Letterman and GMA.
The usual.
I thought the mainstream media didn't like you, Bill.
Well, they get ratings by doing it, so it doesn't really matter whether they like me or not, does it?
You're saying it's a self-serving effort by these big organizations to put you on?
I think they feel that there's a guy in the country who's selling millions of books. Killing Jesus is going to sell 5 million books. I mean, that's unheard of. And he has the highest rated cable news show for 13 years. So there's got to be something there, and thus, if we get him on our show, maybe we'll get some of that.
Right, but you like to set up this sort of narrative that it's you versus the media elite, and I think you've become more accepted in recent years by the
I disagree with you. If you look at the reviews for Killing Kennedy, the people who hate me reviewed me, not the movie, all right? And that's still there. And if I ever fall, they'll be like jackals on my carcass. They hate me because I represent something that is very feared in America. I made my success outside of the establishment. That's how I did it. And they don't like that. And the right doesn't like me either. If you listen to talk radio, they don't like me because I don't toe the line. I'm an independent thinker, and I do things my way.
Does it bother you that people hate you, to use your verb?
No, I asked President Obama that in my last interview with him, because I think he is very sensitive to that. My opinion, I could be wrong. I don't like the cheap shots. The cheap shots I despise, and I go after people who do it. But if you just don't like me because you think I'm obnoxious or you think that I'm misguided politically, that's all right. All right? But if you try to hurt me or my family or my enterprise, you're trying to hurt it, I'll come after you.
I'm here in the no spin zone, and when you talk about President Obama, and you haven't been personal in criticizing him, but you have been very critical of this president for the last 5 years. Would you agree that the mainstream press, particularly with this botched Obamacare rollout, with the NSA spying, or other issues where he hasn't appeared to be plugged in, has also been more critical of this president than in the first term?
They had to, because they were losing credibility. I mean, the people who apologize for Barack Obama now are losing ratings and readership. They're hemorrhaging. They're going out of business. So it was a business decision. But if they could, they'd still stay with their guy. They have a lot of emotion tied in. And I disagree with you. I haven't been overly hard on Barack Obama's presidency in the last 5 years. I've reported fairly and analyzed it fairly on a factual basis. He's done some good things, and I gave him credit for those good things.
But you are basically opposed to his approach to government, which you would see as big government, and you have...
But that doesn't matter. Just because I'm opposed to it...
I'm not saying you're being unfair. I'm saying...
it doesn't mean I'm going to go after him in a way that's unfair or illegal, illegal,
out of bounds,
violating journalistic standards. Look, Barack Obama is a true believer. He believes that Obamacare is best for Americans. That's what he believes. I respect that. That he's not a phony. He's not trying to lead us into this communist paradise. He believes it. I respect true beliefs. But he's desperately wrong. He's wrong. It's bad for the nation. So I look out for the folks, and I have to report that.
I mentioned 60 Minutes, as you know, they just did an apology and a retraction for a story about Benghazi based on a contractor who it appears was not telling the truth about having been at the compound on the night of the attack. A lot of people saying, boy, that apology didn't get much attention on Fox News because it doesn't fit the conservative agenda of pushing Benghazi as a big story. Fair or unfair?
If the facts were altered by it, and I didn't report it big, I didn't pay much attention to it. Maybe that's a valid criticism against Fox News. I don't run Fox News. I got my own problems with the factor. I look at it this way.
But every big mistake by 60 Minutes, why didn't you do more with it?
Why didn't I do more on what?
The mistake.
Because everybody makes them, and it doesn't really have anything to do with people's lives. The people's perception of Benghazi wasn't changed by Lara Logan's report. They brought in a guy who was a charlatan. He faked them out. He wanted to sell a book. He wanted money. Happens. I feel sorry for 60 Minutes. I think they're a noble enterprise. If I thought they weren't, I'd go after them. But I'll cut them some slack on the mistake.
You take a lot of swipes, which is certainly within your purview at MSNBC and some of the liberal commentators there. A lot of people think...
Howard, I don't spend much time on MSNBC.
But a lot of people think that what MSNBC has done by going left is set out to copy Fox News, only on the other side of the ideological spectrum.
Well, they're not making any money. They're not doing very well. Their audience is very low. So I don't know. They can do what they want over there. Look, the only thing that I don't want is personal attacks designed to injure. If I see that over there, I'll dip in a little bit. But Chris Matthews saying, let's write a book, Killing O'Reilly. I know he's not. He's just kidding around.
Right.
I'm not going to make a big deal out of that. They do what they do. We do what we do. Who wins, Howard? Who wins?
Well, you measure everything by numbers. Fox News is on top.
That's right.
But there's also a battle for influence in this country, as you know.
All right. So, if the bottom feeders want to feed down there, fine, but it's not even close. All right? It's not even close. It's like the Denver Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's how far apart it is.
Your view that most of the mainstream media lean left, was that forged in part by the years you spent at CBS and ABC?
Absolutely.
But do you think that everybody in the media leans left, the working reporters, as opposed to, say, Bill Maher, the New York Times editorial page?
Well, look, let me break it down for you. Local news doesn't have much ideology. They don't. They just cover whatever sensational story. So there's not a lot of that. When I worked at Channel 2 in New York, there weren't people doing that. When I went to CBS, absolutely. 9 out of 10 people were confirmed liberals who wanted a liberal approach to the coverage of the news. When I went to ABC, it wasn't quite that bad. All right, maybe it was 65, 70% rather than 90. And Jennings didn't like it. It made him queasy. But he was a liberal and a politically correct guy, but he didn't want that, which rather embraced more of a, let's cover it from this kind of point of view. So sure, I was there. I saw it. I was a reporter. I didn't have any ideology at all. And I didn't care about it at that point. But I certainly brought that into the seat here.
On this set, occasionally, you've gotten into shouting matches with Alan Colmes, with Geraldo. Do you ever go home and say, well, maybe I went too far, or it's good for ratings, it's good TV?
I have to walk the tightrope, but I have to be a real person here. Barney Frank lied right to my viewers, right on the air, provable lie, and then he said he didn't lie, and I let him have it. He deserved it. Geraldo on the illegal aliens committing crimes, and Geraldo wasn't concerned about it, just galled me. It just hit me the wrong way. Colmes, I didn't believe was telling the truth. I was probably too hard on Colmes. I don't think he intentionally lied, but it just hit me the right. I walk a high wire here, all right? Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I overdo it. But I think, after 17 years, we get a lot more right than we get wrong.
Bill O'Reilly.